Very good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Saturday night Lyceum evening. We have a lovely guest tonight, the wonderful Stephen Trolland, a CSNUt from Aviemore with us. We'll just give it a moment here to see people coming into the room. When you do, please say hi, shout out wherever you are, unless you're all out in the garden setting off your fireworks, which... probably not a good idea because it's hideous down here. Oh. Oopsie. Apologies, anybody who saw that mug. Thank you, Fran and Colin. Arisha, you're right, darling. Are you still in hospital, dear? Oh, bless your heart. So welcome. We've got a lovely night. We have great pleasure again of sharing the weekend with this wonderful gentleman from Aviemore. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
Look at him with his glasses, looking all smart.
To be here in person, actually, it's great.
It's absolutely lovely. Hi, Pauline. Welcome. So, yes, Lyceum night. We just sat here. It's been a busy... sorry to hear that, Risha. Thoughts out to you, darling. Not nice, is it, out your own bed? Anyway... So we were sat here and we thought, what can we discuss? And we drew a blank, didn't we? We both went, I don't know. So we'll just talk.
4 minutes to go.
Christine, you're now stalking us, Christine. This is starting to get a little bit strange. That's Christine who's on the workshop.
Oh, good. Excellent. It was a lovely day.
It was very, very good. And
tears all around, but tears with the presence and all that the presence can bring within the intelligence of the spirit world that came close uniquely through each individual for what they needed at that time, but also what the spirit world needed as well. It was just an honour and privilege to witness it all.
It was beautiful. Now we should see. I'm seeing all these paths here to go down. I'm not sure which one to go down at the moment. Hello, Jack. That's all right, mate. You have a lovely evening. You're demonstrating at 7:30, so go get them with the lovely Lola. How wonderful. So yeah, where do we go with that? We've got the educational aspect of that workshops. We've got. You're here. You are the guest of honor. Your ethos is very much about the soul. Tell me it's not. I've been sat with a stranger for 2 days.
The workshop was entitled "Touching Soul."
Yeah,
and that's exactly what it does. Every single person in this whole world has got a beautiful soul. There's a saying, I mentioned today as well, many people say heal the soul. And I don't believe that's true. I believe it's the purity and the beauty within the intelligence and expression of the soul that heals the mind, therefore can heal us, heal the life as well, but also move us in the direction. See, today, it wasn't about, it was just a day where there was no pressure. It was all about learning our art of surrender and creating a condition that allowing the beauty of the soul and the spirit world intelligence to create the results. And I just loved the freedom in it because there was no expectations to perform anything. And every single person that was sitting and we sat for all had their own unique experiences. And there was one really nice one, exercise where I had 4 people sitting at once, which sitting in the power. So the people, we were sitting for them, so the power would be intensified around a certain medium at a certain time. But the intelligence, how you would see it just rest within one person and just move across to another person. and for their experience, just for the soul and the spirit world to express itself, but internally to them. As I say, it was not about, although one person did speak a few words, which is beautiful philosophy, again, it was just open to the floor, to the spirit world. But how one person's soul, the energy that they have, the purity, how it's able to move also, but complement someone else, like for what they needed in their unfoldment and development, but more so that what they needed in that moment in time as well. It's this, there's so much going on behind the scenes, and it's just fascinates me every time, and I'd love to see all of it. It's just everything the spirit world are doing.
Don't be in too much of a rush.
Sorry.
To see the spirit world. It is fascinating because it does tie in a little. We are seeing in this time where we are in the repercussions of COVID, that there's a fair few of our platform mediums and demonstrators are actually pulling back from the public arena. They're pulling back from platforms, they're pulling back from reading sessions and things like that, because they're going within, and they're dealing with themselves, and they're sitting for themselves, which is wonderful, because I keep telling mediums off, when are you going to sit for yourself? You are never a medium. You're the medium that you can be today. Tomorrow you can be even better if you work with it. So it is interesting that fits in very nicely with the energies that are going on, because we're seeing a lot of the demonstrators, a lot of the practitioners are actually not so fussed about going out in public to keep demming like we were doing before COVID endlessly, but actually sitting for self and developing self.
That's one of the most important parts of that. That's always there's that principle within the spiritual master union: eternal progress open to every soul. But that eternal progress happens here now. The soul is constantly evolving, and we know within the beauty, the presence of the soul is all that sensitivity that the spirit world need for the expression to touch that senses, to bring to the surface, to touch the mind of the medium, or should I say the screen of experience, the mind, for them to get their message across in whatever way they want to express themselves, like today as well. It's just that self-development is, for me, the biggest, most important part. And many years ago, a good few years ago now, because I didn't live in, I used to compete for Britain for snowboarding for a good few years. So when I didn't have so many spiritualist churches or circles to go to, there was one in Inverness, and they have supported me so much over the years. But when I went across to France and Europe to compete and teach for sometimes 7 months of the year or more, I didn't have anything, didn't have any circles to go through. And I just, all I could do is just sit and learn my own art of surrender the best I can. And there's, if we think of, if many people or many mediums, and not wrong, can try to embrace the power within mediumship, but what if we can allow the power to embrace us? And that just takes time and dedication, but it's given that time for self-growth and all that comes with that. It's not just within our mediumship, the quality of life that we can see life from a different perspective. Many experiences I'm very privileged and lucky to have of the experience in the oneness of, say, one time, for example, at the top of the slopes, there was I was listening to some music in my headphones, and I was helping out at a race day, and there was a couple of guys that were just acting, in my opinion at the time, a little bit silly, because they were just pushing each other around. They were nearly knocking over like crucial equipment for the race and so on. But I just took a deep breath, and then all of a sudden, the experience is so much more than words. Where everything, I just felt part of everything. I was like I was everything. I was part of it. And every cloud that I was looking down upon as well, across to every breath of wind that went past, it was in its most perfect place. It couldn't be any different. And when we feel that place of perception, it can enlighten the mind. So when I looked across at these couple of guys that were acting silly a wee second ago, I saw the beauty in them. I saw the soul in them. That everyone goes through hard times, and good times as well. And there's the brotherhood of man that we talk about as well. It's just, I think, through our own experiences, coming to a place like this, like in the Lyceum evening, and sharing experiences, it can touch so many people. Soul, in some sense, and I think just in the sharing of it relates a lot of people across the world that haven't got spiritualist churches and things like I didn't have when I was across in France and Europe, and just some things that can be said can touch their soul, bring meaning to experiences that they've had, and kind of maybe set them on their own journey. That the internet is just so crucial just now, and COVID has awoken that as well. So it's just feel very lucky.
No, beautifully put. And as I say, it is nice to see people working. We're noticing here at the church with our various workshops and seminars going on that there is a much greater interest now in more self-awareness based sessions, and healing workshops are going phenomenally well. And that's wonderful, because that's an expression of wanting to help others, not through evidential mediumship where you can have the egoistic energy in it, but healing is just giving healing without that
selfless.
Yeah. So it's just interesting that there is this undercurrent now of wanting to help ourselves and develop ourselves, but not to be up there giving a message every 5 minutes. Just, we've got 3 people in that group today have got no desire to be on the platform.
But yet they had such beautiful experiences.
Yeah, but they just want to deepen their connection with spirit. They want that for their own spirituality, and that's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. There was something I was just about to say there, but when you can feel your thought just drifting away, it's like, what was that? It's happening quite often recently.
Yeah, so that's happened quite a lot. I'm glad you didn't drive down here.
But the self, that's what it was. And when we look at it, it just, yes, we've got so much history, but if we can bring to the surface the influence that many pioneers have left. I'm looking at Gordon Higginson, for example, when he was in the war, it was in Greece. He got dropped off on an island so he can look over and kind of spy on the enemy, see when they're coming and going and things. But he got dropped off in the wrong island, and so he ended up just being able to see and kind of look over I think it was the shipyard. I can't remember if it was the shipyard or the airport. But anyway, an old lady walked down the corner with bread and coffee, flat bread and coffee. And every morning she would come and do this. And nobody's supposed to know he was there. And when the enemy left and he moved down into the town, he was living in part of a house. And he said he was walking past this house, and he heard the piano. He was so keen in the piano himself, so he knocked on the door. Obviously, it's the lady that he knew, and she was part of the house of where he was living. So they got talking about the piano, talking about who he is, I'm a medium, I'm a spiritualist, and so on. And he says, "Oh, I've got a friend that's a spiritualist as well." Or she could say a medium. And would you like to meet her? So he says, "Of course I do." So they jumped in the car and they were heading up. They ended up going up this mountain. And he says, "Wait a minute, this is my mountain." And he was driving up. And they ends up, and he says it was just a shack, an old shack. And outstanding was the lady that brought him black bread and coffee every morning. And he just said, "I just want to know how she knew I was there." And her friend that drove him there said, "No, she's the medium." And he said they had the most amazing seance where not only a great aunt of his materialised, but also Cuckoo, his little black girl guide, came and sat on his knee and so on. But looking at that qualities, how can by chance, if you look at it like that, end up in the wrong mountain? Two incredible mediums together. I believe there's a greater power at work, and if we are able to surrender and should I say embrace that. You see, Gordon sat in circle at the age of 3, got his own chair at the age of 6, gave his first demonstration at the age of 13, 13th birthday. He was always involved in the power and the presence of his own spirit and God. And I believe that took a massive part in moving him in the direction where he needed to be in life at the right time and so on. And there was just I'm just getting excited now. Yeah, I'm excited.
We're not having
that. But anyway, it was they were cornered by the enemy, and the only way across was across this river. And he was a higher ranking officer, but there was someone higher than him. And they said to him, "Do you think you're going to die today?" And he says, "No." "Think you can escape? Do you think you can get away from here?" And he says, "Yes, I do." So they gave the opportunity for those men that wanted to follow him, they could. And his little guy Cuckoo, she got her name Cuckoo because she used to just pee right behind somewhere going cuckoo, just pee right behind forever. But they used to throw a ball to each other. He would throw a ball and the ball would come bouncing back. And then he called upon his friend, or just like help, And she said, "I remember the bouncing ball." So in his mind, he saw this bouncing ball. So he's going along the river, up the river, across the river, just, and it's like, how did he manage to know the people there that led to safety? I just couldn't understand how he knew which way to go because the water was so high, people that couldn't swim. And he just said, "I was following the bouncy ball." And he says, if I knew that, I would have never have followed you to start with. But look what happens, it's just, it moves you through life.
Yeah.
And it moves you through life.
Yeah.
And that faith.
And there's, I can hear a lot of people thinking this. It's amazing what spirit do for you. But we should never forget, this is always a 50-50 exchange. We're not the passive people in there. Gordon didn't get led by spirit just by standing there. He got led by spirit because he had worked on it. He had shown that intent. He had shown that commitment. And it's the same with us, that, as I say, we do tend to put spirit as the passive part to our development, whereas they're not. They are very, very much active. And we've got to rise up and, be on par with that activity and engagement.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you hear people sitting, I'm just waiting for spirit to come to me? And I'm like, what spirit? What are you doing? Yeah, you know, I don't go and sit in Sainsbury's and go, I'm just waiting for the jam roll to come to me. You actually get up and go and find it. And
I was saying today, we know that everyone is completely unique and different. There's no one else in this world that is you. And say for people that have got such a quick active mind that can't sit down or can't, I find it so hard to sit in the power, create a space of focus. But it doesn't mean it's impossible for communication to happen, because they are so unique. And we think about those that love that people and those that work with them in the spirit world, uniqueness. They know where you are in your unfoldment and development. And they know about the mind that jumps all over the place and so on. So they kind of, again, it's that own unique relationship that builds, and it's not easy, because it takes time. But I just wouldn't want people that feel they have difficulty trying to sit and focus and so on, to think I wouldn't want them to think it's impossible, because it's not. You are unique, and you have a living spirit within you, a living soul, and in the spirit world that are there for you as well. You know, it's just finding, just sitting for them, and giving them the time, and just very, very quickly. One time, it was this, I've heard many times, I've said this a few times as well, I've heard, get to know your guides, which is not wrong, definitely not wrong. And as I mentioned before, everyone's relationship is unique and how it happens. But I know that some people will be able to take something from what I'm just about to say, because I was contemplating this one time when I was sitting in the presence of my own spirit, my own soul. And I felt one of my friends come close, inspirers come close, and they said, it's not about you getting to know us. It's about you sitting with reverence and allowing us to get to know you, but within the power, within the blending. And as we get to know you, you will become to know us. So the closer the blending that they can see. Today we're very much looking at the conditions and what we need to allow our soul to fly and walk alongside the spirit world. And it's just creating that conditions that I feel. So
yeah, definitely. And it is beautiful to see people, you know, many of the workshops, seminars, courses, they're being led, and I'm not being disrespectful, they're being led by people to say, well, you need to do it this way, this way, this way. But today was lovely, because you were saying to people, you need to find your way. You were just doing what I call is a very good tutor. You were opening the doors and let people go through and find out for themselves.
Yeah.
But the self-development part does seem to be very evident in today's world, the post-COVID world. We are still blighted to a degree with endless message services, but equally we are seeing people engaging. I'm seeing all sorts of adverts from various avenues of discussion nights, of our Lyceum night has got a great following and great adherence to it. Philosophy nights and things. It just seems like there's this growing energy out there to find out more, go beyond the message with our movement and find out more.
And it's funny how you say that, because I was just thinking about that, about what happened today as well. And then you talked about the philosophy also. And it's not, when we look at philosophy, it's not always about standing upon a platform, and certainly not devaluing that. Absolutely not. It's not always about having to stand in front of people and give off philosophy. It could be your own philosophy upon life. It's your own understanding. I believe it's your soul's perception upon life that presents to you. And today, as well as a gamer, we're leaving it open to everyone's unique experience for just simply for what was to be. And there was nearly everyone saying, some of them wrote a prayer, for example. And it was quite funny in a way, because when it says, I got stuck here, it's like the eagerness was wanting to keep going. But it says, like, I got stuck there, I just didn't know what else to put. But when they stood up and read it, but said it with reverence and feeling as well, it was just perfect. It was just exactly what was needed to be said. It didn't need to be anymore. And again, this is that expression knows when to stop, in some sense. It's just listening to the power, and that's what we were doing today. And it was just every time, just fascinates me every time.
Absolutely. And it is wonderful. I mean, we've been very fortunate here at Paul all through this year. We have had some exemplary tutors, and I don't say that arrogantly or boastfully. They have been absolutely, and you most certainly fit into that criteria, because you just held that room. When I walk into the church and everybody's crying, I'm just thinking, okay, this is either going really well or So lovely, Serena. How are you, my darling? I haven't spoken to you forever. So I also think that mediumship is very colourful, and that there is not one path for everyone. That's what makes it so wonderful and interesting. It is not good to want to copy someone, but to be completely free of spirit, for spirit, and their way of working together.
Oh, beautifully said.
Yeah. Well done. She's a fantastic trance medium.
Oh,
but don't tell anybody.
And it's trying to, when you talk about not copying anyone, if we did that, all we're doing is standing in someone else's shadow. We're not allowing our own light to shine.
Yeah.
And when we talk about personal development, usually there's a lot of healing to take place as well within oneself. And I think part of that kind of takes down the barriers that we hold for ourselves for that expression to surface.
That is a lovely point. Thank you, Serena. That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for your input there. You mentioned that magic word healing, because I'm learning it more and more and seeing it more and more and dealing with it more and more. Whatever pathway you go on to develop your connection with spirit, be it for your own mediumship, for evidential, for philosophical, for healing, it's that healing path that we have to go on as part of that journey, and recognizing that and working with it as well. One of my trigger hearing, if I hear somebody say, I only feel good when I'm healing other people, to me that's saying, hang on,
you need some healing yourself.
Yeah. You're only feeling good because you are perceiving you're doing good for other people. Why aren't you feeling good the rest of the time? When you're not healing other people, you should be in that state all the time, not only when you're working with other people. And this is something sometimes gets a little bit left out of our teachings and education, that to stop and look at those opportunities. When we say about self-progression, I include our own self-healing in as part of that self-progression.
It's always a continuous journey, Myself, I've been working publicly for a good few years now, and I know I've got a lot of healing to take place, because life's traumas just everyone's going to have a life trauma of some kind, someone passing, or even just like a break in a relationship, it's a trauma of some kind, it's a grieving of some kind, and everyone is going to work through that in their own unique way. But what I do know is if you've been through it before, is to try not follow the same patterns that led you there in the first place. Maybe if it is for like abusive relationships, whatever, there's something that needs to be changed in the individual. And that comes, I believe, with self-awareness and healing.
Yeah.
But knowing that there are people there that love you, that want the best for you, and being able to be open to their trying to find the right words, their kindness, and just with that on its own can bring healing to us. It's not always standing with hands-on healing, allowing the power to flow through. And it's about being around the right people. And I know, just like when I've mentioned about Gordon Higginson as well, when we're surrendering and getting to know that part of self, it can move us to the right people at the right time. But it's up to us to walk through the door. It's up to us to the personal responsibility within it to recognise, follow.
Yeah, and following on nicely from what you just said there, lovely Arisha, who is currently laid up in hospital, bless her heart.
Oh, that's
so yeah, good thoughts out to you, Arisha, and hope you're back home in your own bed very soon. Anyway, she's saying, I believe we can only give our students the tools. It is then up to them to work with spirit in their own right. Correct.
Absolutely.
Correct.
That was so nicely said.
Yeah. Good evening, Bill. We've got rough people in there.
Hey, Bill.
We've gone down the council estate now. Oh, dear. So, we know a little bit about you, and you've been so kind as to have done a few talks for us before. Just a little recap for people who are new with us tonight. If you don't want to talk about it, absolutely fine. But, we're saying about traumas. Now, the energy of a trauma impacting on people, it doesn't matter if you've lost your entire family in some catastrophe or you've lost a friend that you don't really contact with. It can have the same impact on different people. Have I explained that properly?
No.
Okay, try that another way. Some, we hear some people's journeys and you go, oh, good God, how did you get through that?
Yeah.
Because it's almost like, they went through all this massive stuff and everything. You think, geez, how did you get through that? But we sort of like neglect that some of the things that we face energetically hit us the same way.
Absolutely.
We didn't have this whatever in that person's life, but the things that happened in our life were equally as energetic and equally as
traumatizing.
Yeah, potentially damaging. Yeah. So you were from an early age aware of spirit, is that correct? Please say yes.
I worked from an early age, did you say? It wasn't until later on in life, and again going through an emotional trauma with the passing of my beloved brother, and other things happening at that time. There was a couple of grievings that was going on at once as well. So sometimes we're forced within ourselves to look for a bigger and better reason to life rather than how it presents itself. And how I found my way was being in nature, because we are part of nature. And when we look at mediumship, for example, and other phenomena, it's always got to be in accordance to natural law, nature. So we can't just demand the spirit world, be here now, tell me this, tell me that. It's like, move that table now. Why aren't you moving it? It's always got to be in accordance with natural law. And I think if you understand that a bit more, just like the experience I had on top of the mountain, but this was another one, similar experience when I was going through that time. There was a big hill, I would say. It's not a mountain, a hill, and the views were just so beautiful. You can see right down the valley up in the Highlands, across Loch Inch, it's called. And when you're looking down upon, there's just this breath of wind. After I was sitting for a little while, I was trying to meditate at the time, and I'm certainly not devaluing meditation, and if anyone has had incredible experiences or really good experiences through meditation, and then please don't let these words take that away from you, because I know there's different practices of meditation as well. But this one, I was trying to go on this journey. I was listening on my headphones, and I was just giving myself a hard time. And because of that, I was creating attention, and of course, then it's not got the freedom to flow. So I took my headphones off, took a deep breath, and then all of a sudden, I was back in that space, like I mentioned before, being on top of the mountain. But that was at the beginning. This one was at the beginning of my unfoldment. And again, the breath of wind, you could just see it just bend all the tips of the trees as it was going up like waves across the side of the mountainsides. And every cloud, every breath of wind was just in the most perfect place. And I was just a part of it all. And that was then when I knew knew more so then that I am so much more than just the physical body. I'm part of all what I'm experiencing here. And I used to just keep going back to that place because I just knew that natural healing was taking place at that time. That self-development was taking place at that time. And I think, again, as everyone needs to find their own way to work through healing. And I know you mentioned something a minute ago, but I can't remember what it was.
That's okay. It was of the moment. It's gone. The lovely Bill Rich. Good evening, Bill. And lovely comment. As unique as our connection to spirit, so is our traumas and pain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally agree. Lovely Sue Townsend. Stephen, do you have any advice to encourage people how to let go of the past and be in the present moment and not focus on the future? Simply be in the eternal now.
As we mentioned, everyone's different. Sorry, let me read it again. Do you encourage people how to let go of the past?
Yeah.
You know, it's because the past has been a big part of our life. It's, in some sense, it is letting go, but I would say it's more of a healing process that's taking place, because the memory of the past is always going to be there, but it's how we then interact with that memory. I believe it's like what you give your attention to in life, you give your power. And if you give your attention to the past all the time and focus on where the hurt or the pain or how things were difficult, you're giving that power, you're giving it strength to embrace every part of you. So sometimes some emotions can consume all of us, every part of us, what it feels at the time. And I think when you mention letting go, again, it's just putting your focus to if you can just for 1 second, I said this today, if you had one friend that has been, or family member, someone that is just you have touched, or they have touched you all your life, and if they were to stand in front of you and tell you, say if it was someone for a lifetime, been with you for a lifetime, for example, and tell you every positive thing that you have done in life, you wouldn't look at the past in the way that you do. Natural healing would take place, because then it will bring alive within you the positivity, bring that living thought alive within you. And again, when I mentioned it's a lifetime, it would take a lifetime to go through that. And therefore, it's just one person. And can you imagine so many other people that you have touched without even knowing it? if they were to stand in front of you and tell you how much and you have touched them and so on, we can't possibly fit all that within one thought. And it proves to us that we are more beautiful than we can possibly physically imagine in this minute in time. And if I was to give advice to people, I just say, see the good in you. Try not be so hard on yourself. Some people give themselves a hard, see, everyone's unique, but some people give themselves a hard time for having a hard time.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I feeling like this? I'm always feeling rubbish. And then if you're saying that, you're giving it your power and your energy. Just listen to beautiful music, go for a walk in nature, be around the people that appreciate you. That's what I would say. One of the most important things. Like even, I'm not saying every spiritualist church, but we've got our churches as well, you can go in where you can get healing also. Somewhere where you feel welcome. But the biggest thing is being around the right people. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get positive people, because the past it's everything in our past has carved and shaped where we are today. Now it's our mindset on, do we keep going back to bits of the past and thinking, oh, maybe I could have handled that better, or they could have handled that better, or if I had done. But at the end of the day, you can't change it. It's immutable. It's there. It's fixed.
And she says, and try not to focus on the future. That's a really good point as well. But at the same time, it's leaving space for new energy, for new beginnings to embrace us and move us in the right direction. But it's having the faith, like when I mentioned about Gordon Higginson earlier on, just for having that faith in self. You're giving life to that God consciousness within you to move you in the right direction. But there was another thing I was going to say, try not to focus on the future. Because sometimes, I know what you mean by that, Sue, because sometimes many people just want to know, where am I going? Where am I going? Or even, it's like, say if I was going to say, you're going to be this person, or you're going to be there at that time. If you, if I was to say that to someone, it would naturally create that within their mind, bring it alive. And then naturally they'll want to work out, how am I going to get there? So if I do this, if I go that way, and it doesn't work like that. It's like not giving trust and faith and belief in yourself, and being around the right people, as mentioned before, because that higher consciousness that within you, your soul wants you to live a loving, fulfilled life. And those people here in this life that love you. And I think if we embrace that, then uniqueness in your journey will become alive, and your life can change in so many ways in such a positive way. That's how I feel.
Lovely.
I hope that makes sense in some way.
Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you. Lovely. Keith, good evening, sir. Someone once told me that to be an effective medium, you have to be able to emotionally protect yourself. How do you understand this?
Personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was not going to be nice to you, or some people you just naturally don't gel with, as I mentioned about being around the right people, that's our own personal responsibility if we're going to allow that to happen to us or not. But in a way, I've never really had to, depends what you mean in protection. I've never really had to imagine a bubble around me or anything like that. If people, if that creates positive effect in your life and your mediumship, and then I'd say there's nothing wrong with it. But I think when we talk about protection, it automatically gives life to something that could be negative that you're protecting yourself to. And therefore, you wouldn't want to give life to that negativity. I would just say, just be who you are. And then it's recognizing when, say, not being around the right people is just try not to be around the wrong people, should I say.
Yeah.
This is what I was trying to get to there.
Yeah.
And if you're meaning about the spirit world, and people talk about protection of the spirit world, I don't believe we need protection at all. I've never ever had to protect myself. In the beginning, we were doing this in circle and so on, but I've never needed to. So why should we do it? If we're just see, intention is the seed of thought. And if we're opening ourselves up with a beautiful intention, a good intention to be with those that love us, to be with the purity and the presence and the beauty of our own spirit, and then I don't see why negativity will be able to make a dent in that at all. You know, we talk about you can't put the lights are on here, you can't put a darkened room in here and turn off the lights. No, the lights are on always diminishes darkness. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I hope that works.
Yeah. And also very much energy follows thought.
Yeah.
And sometimes the energy behind when people are talking about putting protection in is almost like this mania. And don't forget, you got to protect yourself. You make sure you protect yourself. We are naturally then just instilling a fear-based energy into your, because if you're like, you know, het up and so wound up about the thought that I've got to protect myself, well, your mind naturally follows, whether it's conscious or not. I'm protecting myself, and if I have to protect myself, that means there are aggressors out there that, if I'm not careful, will attack me. It creates that situation rather than...
Look at today as well. Today especially, everyone was nearly, well, I was nearly in tears too, but just with the feeling and emotion and the beauty, we didn't have to protect ourselves at all.
Yeah.
It's just promoting fear in some sense, if we think about that. So it's something, that's only my opinion on it.
Yeah. And when you use that phrase, Keith, about being an effective medium, I mean, you could apply it to demonstrating on platform somewhere. You do get the emotion come through. We don't put a protection up against it. We allow it to come through, but we've also got to have that control element of going, oh, stand back a little bit. How many mediums do you ever see doing that on the platforms? Oh, back a bit. Because you can become overwhelmed by the emotion sometimes, because the love of spirit. I always say, as a medium, when you're in a message situation and they're saying that they love you, from the medium's perspective, we're not hearing a voice saying, oh, by the way, tell them I love them. We get that emotion.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just like, whoosh, over you. But we've got to vocalize it.
And at the same time, breathe through it. To be professional in some sense. It's not going to be good when we're standing up in the platform, bubbling and greeting. Greeting. Crying. There was something
those great words.
When we look at those that are joining and blending with us in the spirit world, where we're making a communication, when the emotion comes, or something that might make the medium feel a little bit uncomfortable at times, you know, maybe an emotion that they don't want to get upset. I don't believe in saying, stand back a bit, go away, kind of thing, because in the next breath you're saying, come back, I need some information. So what we're really doing is saying, thank you for that emotion there, but I'm aware of that now. Can we please change that? So therefore, we're keeping the closeness, and therefore we're making the spirit world aware that emotions, you know, it's we might be finding it quite maybe difficult to breathe through, to change. You know, it's just making the spirit world aware. That's what I say.
That is really good advice.
Thanks.
That is, it's excellent. I'm working next Friday. I'm going to try that. If it goes wrong, I'm going to blame you. So lovely, Serena, back again. How important do you think to heal yourself first before dedicating yourself to healing others? And do you think that this is also has an effect on the clients, for example, authenticity or in other ways?
That's a really good question.
That is, isn't it?
I'd say when we are giving healing, we are also being healed. It depends on, I feel, so in my opinion, on how much we are surrendering to the purity and the beauty and the intelligence of a healing power at work. And if we're surrendering to that, and then we're not becoming active within it. So therefore our emotions shouldn't then have an effect upon someone else. But when we look at healing, I believe that true spiritual healing. In the beginning, we've got magnetic healing, where we can really like imagine someone's shoulder getting better. Imagine that heat, or however you work that color, they're getting better. Because it's a living thought, a living energy, so is the soreness maybe in someone's shoulder, an energy, and it's how that energy and blend and it's just changing frequencies within one another that allows pain to go away. But if you're imagining that all the time, that's not coming from the spirit world. That's coming from your own self. That's coming from, and you can get tired with that. But then there's also, as Gordon Higginson, I believe, mentioned it, as faith healing, when we're opening up to God, a higher consciousness within us, and just surrendering to be within that presence. Natural healing can take place, and we can say, please heal, but we're not becoming so active in it as well of like before, so you won't get so tired. But when it comes to true spiritual healing, I believe, is when then the spirit world come close within that God consciousness within you, the soul of you, when they come close and increase the intelligence behind the healing. Then you talk about doctors in the spirit world, and then that's when intelligent healing can take place, and then you're not becoming involved or active in it. So that's what I think.
Yeah.
No,
sense. It's very good.
Very
quick shout out. Your ears burning, Mr. Berry. We were chatting about you just a little while ago. All good. All good. All very nice. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, you too, Adam.
There's in one of the Zodiac books, he talks about healers and healing, and he is emphasizing there that from the healer's point of view, they've got to work so hard on making sure that they are always striving for the highest and the best. And if there's anything, it was written in the language of the day, and I can only remember glimpses of it. But if there was anything troubling and besetting, they should not embark upon this healing, because it is like plunging dirty hands into clean drinking water, energetically.
Nice way to explain it.
Yeah, we all have it. I mean, we've got a wonderful healing group here at Poole. We've got 26 healers enrolled in total.
That's brilliant.
And when we have our healing evenings, of course, because people work, so some can make it, some can't. So there's always this rolling attendance. That's absolutely fine, because we live in a busy world, a modern world. Absolutely. And if I say to people, if you're not here every week, you can't be a healer, I'd end up with no healers. As simple as that. You be here when you can, and people make the effort. Yeah. But quite often, in the healing groups, when they come in, and you can just pick it out, there'll be 2, 3, or 4 sometimes, and just say, you're not healing tonight, you need healing. And you're to receive healing only, because it's just there, and we've got a couple of nurses, and their life at the moment is just simply horrendous, and they're so, and then they go, oh, thanks for that. Thanks for that, because that is part of it. We've got to recognise our own.
I love getting healing as well, and we can look at how it works as well. You know, when the healer is opening up, then the soul, the expression of God within the soul is rising and changing the frequency within the auric field, and that naturally expands. And then within that space, because we're in touch with that higher consciousness, God, universe, great spirit, whatever you want to put towards it, and the spirit world are coming close. It's that harmony, that trinity that we need, because then when we're our auric field, our energy is then touching the frequency, the auric field of the person that's being healed, and then that's where the healing can take place. So if we think of like an emotion as a frequency of a vibration of some kind, when that healing is directed into a space of that emotion, the change in the frequency is changing the frequency of that emotion. That can make it feel a lot lighter. And even like today, with what we're doing today, back in Inverness Spiritualist Church, there's this lady, and she's been through so much. She's lost her son, her grandson. She's had so much trauma in her life. And then, but when we were sitting in circle, taking turns where we would sit for her, and at that time, it says how the power speaks to you. It just felt like if this whole night was just to sit for that person, for her to be where she is right now, and then so it be.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. There was more people, a couple of people got more, but when it naturally ended in some sense in its own natural way. And then she said the next week when I saw her that she just cried all the way home in the car, and she was just crying all the time. But afterwards, she said it's just like a massive weight has been lifted off me. So you can, I'd love to see so much more of what the spirit world are doing behind the scenes, you know, and you can see the efforts. I don't think sometimes we appreciate like maybe we should. Well, we do appreciate, but if we really see what's going on behind the scenes and the efforts, it's just again fascinating. It just makes you so humble to be part of it, the effort that they're putting in as well in the spirit world.
Yeah, there was very prevalent amongst the old school mediums. They used to refer to any sitter in circle engaged 7 circles of 7 in the spirit world. Now, I'm not saying that's a formulaic, that's exactly what it is, but it just starts to give you an idea. You know, you just think for every person sitting, there's 49 people sitting for you from the spirit side. And as I say, that 49 is not a magical figure or something. It's just to sort of like expand the consciousness that it's not just you sat in circle, or you sat there were doing healing, or you sat there doing whatever your mediumship takes you. You've got this vast army behind you working with you. And you know, when we work evidential mediumistic, we're probably aware of our gatekeepers and the contact, that you can be rest assured that outside of that little piece of our awareness, there's this huge conglomerate of people there drawing close, just happy to add their energy to get that message through, to bring that healing in, to lift that.
And today as well, I'm not saying the spirit world didn't take part in it, but we look at the intelligence of our own spirit, our own soul as well. I did an exercise where we would sit for someone, but where the spirit world weren't invited just at that minute in time. So I would say that, okay, your soul is going to prepare you for a prayer, for example. And then you can feel the atmosphere changing around it. And then a little while later, I said, okay, your soul's going to prepare yourself to maybe stand up on platform, for example. And then the quickness, the the excitedness within it, the energy's completely changed. And that was without inviting the spirit worlds. It's just highlighting that we have our own intelligence within us. It knows what we want to do. It knows how to do it itself. And if we give freedom to that, and then it can, like as I mentioned before, do so much for us in life, as I'm continuously learning myself and continuously reminding myself, because we know we live in society where the consciousness of it, if we look at it like that, it's quite fast, it's busy, you know.
Yeah.
And when we go into that, I don't want to put it as energy, but I'm going to mention it in that way just to try and explain what I'm meaning. That our spiritual part of us, you know, if I've had a great day of a workshop and I've got this eagerness to carry on, then all of a sudden you go outside to the busy world, go to work, that kind of that eagerness can dissolve in some sense, because the busyness of life can take over.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel, when we mentioned at the beginning, that self-development is continuously unfolding. It's a forever unfolding journey. We're an eternal spirit here and now, evolving here and now. And then we deserve to give ourselves that time. But there is also, when we mentioned where it can be spirit induced. If we think about the spirit world, they come close, touch the frequency of your auric field, and then it's, you know, it can work that way as well. And then I said everyone is completely unique. Just one last thing. Everyone's relationship is completely unique, as I mentioned before. To those friends in the spirit world, that there's a lady
A wee lassie.
that I know, and she's an amazing medium, and she has got this confidence thing, like most of us, but it's kind of just a little bit more in her. And when she stands up to do a prayer, for example, there's this little Irish twang that comes out in her accent.
Yeah.
And it's those in the spirit world and how they're uniquely working with her as a unique person, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just everyone deserves to be loved by their own spirit, and also those that love in the spirit world. You deserve to be around the right people in this life that will complement who you are. That will allow your soul and your perception to grow, so that the light can, if we can put it like that, your soul can enlighten the mind, move you in directions, live a loving and fulfilled life. But we know that it's always got its hardships, but it doesn't take away the eternal soul that we have, the eternal spirit we have. It's always there. It's always there to be called upon, to give ourselves the time. So
brilliant.
I'll stop living now.
I'm
I get carried away. It's just
absolutely
my passion.
Well, this is lovely thing on these evenings. We get to see people's passions come out, and it really translates really well into this virtual arena. Stephen, thank you. Looking forward to tomorrow morning. You are with us here in Poole at 11 o'clock doing the divine service.
Yeah.
So if you're in the area, we'd love to see you. Doors open at 10:15. If not, you can watch in the comfort of home on Facebook or YouTube. And also in the evening, you are working over at Bath Road Church, taking their divine service at 6:15 in the evening.
Look forward to that too.
So that would be wonderful.
It'd be a privilege.
Next Saturday, we've got a special night on. It will be our Remembrance Lyceum evening, and Craig Morris has asked, you speak English, specifically to take that one. So looking forward to linking up with Craig Morris, 7 o'clock next Saturday. In the meantime, everybody, a very good night from me. Have a wonderful night, peaceful night. I thought the fireworks were going to get cancelled, but they're not. Very big. Anyway, peaceful night from me and from Stephen.
Thank you very much. Everyone said thank you. Such nice, Leslie, Serena, Eva, Barry, and Susan Brown, and Thank you for being here. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Brilliant night. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We might get the whiskey out. In the meantime, everybody, have a safe, peaceful, wonderful night. And as I say, don't forget, next Saturday, 7 p.m. BST, Craig Morris, and it's a special Lyceum night as it is the Remembrance weekend. So we're looking forward to linking up there.